Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're diving into the world of Chef Bet, a 73-year-old vegan chef with a seriously inspiring story. You wanted to hear about how she approaches life, fitness, and that plant-based lifestyle with such a focus on self-love. So we dug into her Rich Roll podcast interview to find some answers for you.
It's amazing how Chef Bet built this vibrant, healthy life after having such a difficult start. Her story is really about resilience.
It totally is. She talks about childhood abuse and her struggles with addiction, which makes her positive outlook even more remarkable.
It really does. But what's super interesting is how she found her way out through spirituality. It sounds like her introduction to metaphysics at City of Angels Church in Agape was a major turning point.
That makes you think, what was it about those teachings that really spoke to her?
Well, she speaks really highly of Reverend Michael Beckwith and his ideas about oneness and interconnectedness. It seems that helped her shift from anger and resentment to a place of love and acceptance. For herself, but also for others. And it seems like for Chef Bet, that's the core of self-love. Accepting yourself, flaws and all.
That's a powerful idea. And it seems like that self-acceptance allowed her to make some huge life changes, like going vegan at 40.
It's funny, that transition wasn't instant. She actually started out pretty skeptical about veganism.
So what changed her mind?
It sounds like knowledge was key. Her husband, Ron, made her a delicious plant-based meal and also introduced her to some important books, Fit for Life and the Mucusless Diet Healing System.
Oh, I've heard of Fit for Life. That's the one about food combining, right?
Yeah.
But the mucusless diet, that one's new to me. What's the idea behind that?
So it's by Professor Arnold Ehret, and it basically emphasizes lots of fruits, veggies, and starches, but avoids mucus-forming foods, things like dairy, meat, and processed stuff. The goal is to cleanse the body and let it heal itself naturally. For Chef Bet, it just clicked. She really believes knowing why you're making a change, especially a dietary one, makes all the difference in sticking with it.
That makes so much sense. It's so easy to jump on a trend. But really getting those reasons behind your choices helps you stay committed, especially when it gets hard.
Absolutely. And it seems like that deep dive into the why behind plant-based eating led Chef Bet to believe that it's just the most natural way for humans to eat, the way you're supposed to for optimal health and well-being.
You can really see that belief in action at her vegan soul food restaurant, Stuff I Eat. It's like a delicious expression of her commitment to taking care of herself and her community.
Right, and it's interesting she chose to open it in Inglewood, a community that she says faces a lot of challenges. She sees a lack of access to healthy food there and a lack of understanding about good nutrition.
It sounds like she's trying to fill that gap with her restaurant, not just with delicious food, but also a different perspective on healthy eating, leading by example and showing people that plant-based food can be both accessible and enjoyable.
And it goes beyond the restaurant. She's planning a roundtable event with Black doctors to talk about health issues and educate people about the benefits of plant-based diets, which is pretty impressive, especially at 73.
Yeah. Speaking of her age, you would never guess it. She's got so much energy and is so fit. She talked about being active, not needing medication, and even doing push-ups.
It's pretty amazing, although she did mention hurting her knee recently. Pushing herself too hard at the gym after a 45-minute spin class. It just goes to show that even the most dedicated fitness enthusiasts have to listen to their bodies and not overdo it.
So true. Even superheroes need a break sometimes. It's interesting, though, she recovered without traditional medical intervention, just focused on good nutrition and rest, which shows how powerful those things can be.
Absolutely. It highlights her belief in the body's ability to heal itself, given the right tools. And it really emphasizes the impact of a healthy plant-based lifestyle.
That whole knee injury story actually says a lot about her approach to self-love, too. It's not just about pampering yourself. It's about understanding what your body needs and respecting it.
For sure. And it's cool how that self-love and respect extends outward. She even took part in a protest against Starbucks charging extra for plant-based milk. Shows she's willing to stand up for what she believes in, especially when it comes to making healthy choices more accessible.
You can really see how strongly she feels about that. And speaking of taking a stand, she's got a new cooking show coming out called Hot or Not with Chef Chris Tucker, where they'll showcase both raw and cooked versions of dishes. What a great way to show off how versatile plant-based cooking can be.
Definitely piques my interest. I'm curious to see how they present those different approaches.
So where are we so far? We've got a woman who faced some serious challenges in life, but used those experiences to grow. She found strength in self-love and spirituality, and that led her to embrace a plant-based lifestyle, not just for herself, but for her community and the planet too.
It's a pretty powerful story, and it makes me wonder, what else can we learn from her journey? So picking up where we left off, one thing that's so cool about Chef Bette's story is how her plant-based journey went beyond just the physical stuff. She really connected it to a deeper understanding of, like, her place in the world.
Totally. And remember how she kept talking about oneness? It's like being plant-based isn't just about the food itself, but about recognizing a connection with all living things.
Exactly. She makes a direct link between what she eats and her spiritual beliefs, especially that idea that everything's connected. Choosing not to eat animals, for her, comes from compassion and acknowledging their right to life.
It's almost like she's saying, if I believe in oneness, then how can I justify harming another living being? Makes you think about how our relationship with food might change if we all viewed it through that lens.
That's a really interesting thought. Like, could shifting our perspective on food have this ripple effect, not just on us, but on the environment and how we treat animals ethically?
Definitely something to ponder. And I really appreciate how she approaches this. She's not preachy or judgmental at all. She even admits that sticking to a plant-based lifestyle can be tough sometimes.
Yeah, she mentioned still getting cravings, especially for sugar. It's a good reminder that she's human, just like us. Even with her strong convictions, she faces those same temptations.
Makes her even more relatable.
Yeah.
She's not this superhuman who effortlessly resists everything. It's more about choosing to prioritize her well-being, even when cravings hit.
It's all about making conscious choices, knowing we'll have moments of weakness, but trying to align what we do with our values.
Exactly. Progress, not perfection. She's not aiming for flawlessness, but making better choices most of the time. And that's something most of us can actually stick with.
Speaking of sticking with things, her daily routine is fascinating. It's not your typical day, that's for sure. Early to bed, waking up before sunrise, fresh juice or fruit first thing. Pretty different from how a lot of people start their day.
It is. It sounds like she's in tune with her natural rhythms. Maybe that's part of what gives her such amazing energy. And it shows how there's no one right way to be healthy. It's finding what works for you, your body, and how you live.
Totally agree. And remember how she mentioned finding joy in those simple things, spending time alone, telling jokes, enjoying her own company. Says a lot about her self-awareness and contentment.
It's like she's saying, I'm happy with who I am, and I don't need anyone else to tell me that. You can really feel that inner confidence and self-love shining through.
And it challenges those ideas about what aging's supposed to look like. She's 73, full of energy and joy. Proof that age really is just a number.
No doubt about it. Oh, and remember her talking about sea moss? She puts it in everything. Sauces, smoothies, juices. Seems like she's convinced of its health benefits.
I know, it caught my attention too. Now, to be fair, the research on sea moss is still pretty limited, but it does have things like iodine and iron, which are good for you. And hey, if it makes her feel good and contributes to her well-being, who are we to argue?
Exactly. It's about finding what works for you.
Yeah.
And, we can't talk about plant-based diets, especially at her age, without addressing the protein question.
Right, it always comes up. Where do you get your protein?
But honestly, just look at Chef Bet. She's clearly thriving.
And she's not relying on protein powders or supplements. It's all from those whole plant foods, beans, lentils, nuts, seeds. Although she did mention starting a vegan omega-3 supplement because her levels were low. Interesting how even with such a healthy diet, there might be areas where a little extra support can be helpful.
True. It's a reminder that we all have different needs. Talking to a doctor or a registered dietitian can really help figure out what's best for you. Great point. Now, circling back to her restaurant, it's so much more than just a business. It feels like a platform to share her love of food, that self-love message, and her vision for a healthier community.
Definitely. It's very intentional. She's created this space where people can actually experience how joyful and delicious plant-based eating can be. It's about abundance and flavor, not deprivation.
And she's very aware of those disparities in access to healthy food, especially in Black and brown communities,
Yeah.
something she feels very strongly about.
Absolutely. It's about more than just serving food. She wants to educate and empower people to make healthier choices.
And she's not afraid to challenge the systems that create those disparities, like when she protested that plant-based milk upcharge at Starbucks.
That was powerful. Shows she's willing to take a stand, even if it makes people uncomfortable.
She's an activist in her own way, using her platform to push for good.
And what's so remarkable is that she does all of this with such love and compassion. It's not about anger, but about inspiring positive change.
That's what makes her message resonate. Remember how she talked about knowledge being the starting point for change? She doesn't want people to just blindly follow a plant-based lifestyle, but to understand why they're doing it.
I love that. It's about empowering people, not indoctrinating them, letting them make informed choices based on their own values.
It's about connecting your food choices to what you believe in. For her, it's about oneness and compassion for animals, but for someone else, it might be about the environment or their own health.
Right, finding your own why. And once you've got that, she encourages you to think about the consequences of what you choose. Whether we realize it or not, our decisions have these ripple effects, not just on us, but on the environment and how other species are doing.
It's a call to be more conscious in how we live, to be mindful of how what we do impacts the world around us, which honestly can be hard in a world that's all about convenience and instant gratification.
It's true, sometimes it feels like you're swimming upstream. But her story shows us that positive change is possible, even if it's just one step at a time.
She's not saying we have to be perfect, just that we should make progress and be kind to ourselves along the way. Remember, we're all works in progress.
Couldn't agree more. And find the joy in the process. Celebrate those wins and savor the experience of nourishing ourselves with delicious plant-based food.
Speaking of savoring, she talked about loving to garden. It sounds like she feels deeply connected to nature through that nurturing life from tiny seeds to food she can eat.
Yeah. Imagine the feeling of growing your own food, knowing exactly where it comes from and how it was cared for. It embodies that whole interconnectedness idea she talks about.
And then there's that story about her learning to swim, even after almost drowning a couple of times when she was younger. Talk about resilience and not letting fear hold you back.
That's so inspiring. It's never too late to learn new things or face a challenge.
And she wasn't afraid to ask for help along the way either. Shows how important community and support are when you're trying to grow.
It's a good reminder that we don't have to go through things alone.
Honestly, her whole story is really about the transformative power of self-love.
It really is. Her healthy lifestyle, her energy, her commitment to her community, her optimism, it all comes back to that self-love and acceptance.
It's like the fuel that keeps her going, even when things are tough. And it's such a powerful message for everyone. When we love and appreciate ourselves, it creates this ripple effect of positive change that goes way beyond just us.
That's beautifully put. So as we move into the final part of this deep dive, let's keep that message in mind. What other insights can we take away from Chef Bette's journey?
Let's find out. Okay, so we've learned so much about Chef Bette, but what else can we uncover from her journey? What really stood out to you in the last part of the interview?
You know, one thing that was fascinating is how Chef Bette keeps saying that knowledge is like the basis of any real change. She doesn't want us to just go vegan blindly. She wants us to get why it matters. It's like she's encouraging everyone to become a little expert on their own health.
Yeah. It's about taking charge, right? Doing the research yourself and then making choices that work for you. Not just following someone else's rules, but finding what's right for your body and how you live.
Exactly. And, you know, she talked about how important it is to connect your food choices to your personal values. For Chef Bette, that's about oneness and having compassion for animals. But for someone else, it could be about the environment or just getting healthier. The key is finding your own why.
And once you figure out that why, she wants us to really consider the ripple effects of our choices. Like what we decide doesn't just affect us, it also affects the environment and all those other species out there. It's about seeing the bigger picture.
It is. It's a call to be more aware of how we live, to be mindful of the impact our actions have, which can be a struggle in a world that's obsessed with convenience.
It's true. It's not always easy. It can feel like you're fighting an uphill battle sometimes.
Right.
But listening to Chef Bette, you realize that positive change is possible, even if it's just baby steps at first.
Right. She's not asking for perfection, just progress. And she wants us to be kind to ourselves in the process because, hey, we're all still figuring things out.
For sure. And have fun with it. Enjoy the small wins and savor the experience of eating delicious plant-based food. It shouldn't be a chore. It should be an adventure.
She mentioned her love of gardening. You know, it sounds like that's where she really connects with nature, watching life grow from those little seeds into food she can eat.
I can only imagine how satisfying it must be to grow your own food, knowing exactly where it came from and how much care went into it. It's such a perfect picture of that interconnectedness she talks about.
Totally. And then there's that story about her learning to swim, even after almost drowning a few times earlier in life. That just shows her resilience, how she refuses to let fear stop her from anything.
Such a good story for anyone who's ever felt held back by fear. It's like she's saying it's never too late to try something new or overcome a challenge.
And she wasn't afraid to ask for help along the way. Shows you how important it is to have a good community and support system when you're trying to grow.
In a lot of ways, her whole story is about how powerful self-love can be.
It really is. Her healthy lifestyle, all that energy she has, how much she cares for her community, her optimism, it all traces back to that self-love and acceptance.
It's what keeps her going, even when things get tough.
Yeah.
And I think that's a really powerful message for all of us. When we love and appreciate ourselves, it creates this ripple effect of good that goes way beyond just ourselves.
I couldn't have said it better. So, as we wrap up our deep dive into Chef Bette's life, the question I have for you is, what resonated with you the most? Was it her focus on self-love, her passion for knowledge, or maybe just her incredible zest for life?
Whatever it was, I hope you hold on to that feeling and let it guide you. Remember Chef Bette's message. Show appreciation for life by making choices that nourish your body, mind, and spirit. Never underestimate how powerful a little bit of love can be, both for yourself and the world around you.
Thanks for joining us for this deep dive into Chef Bette's world. We hope it sparked some new ideas and maybe even inspired you to try something different. Whether that's a new plant-based recipe, a fresh approach to self-care, or even just a new way of thinking about your place in the grand scheme of things.
Until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep diving deep.